what is mysticism? What is a mystic? Let's start with what is a mystic. A mystic is, in my experience, is someone who tap into the Maya Kosha, the Vijnana Maya Kosha, the cosmic mind, the ultimate divine cosmic universal mind, supreme universal consciousness. Remember when we talk in previous voyages about all the different kosha, the different shi, the different layer, and this one is going beyond the intellectual. So a mystic is one who really goes beyond the intellectual, who is empty, who is in a state of vairagya. Vairagya means dispassionate. Dispassionate doesn't mean lifeless. Dispassionate means devoid of personality, from a person to a presence. And so all that doesn't serve you is beyond accumulation, beyond conditioning. It's just the very course of the divine presence that is remain in a state of vairagya. So in a state of vairagya is from a person to a presence, and then you can actually tap into the Vijnana Maya Kosha in the cosmic mind. So mysticism, what is mysticism? Especially in the yogic tradition, it's the realm of paranormal that cannot be explained by in the scope of modern scientific understanding. It is the world, the realm of the paranormal, and it's intellectually one cannot understand what is this intelligent. And so much we're going to discuss in Voyage 3 on Tantra, on the art of consecration. And so when you look into the yogic tradition, mysticism is very ingrained, very related. You can see it in Tantra, in the tantric path in particular. Tantra, huge misconception, horrible misunderstanding about what is Tantra in the Western Hemisphere. It's very unfortunate because most people in the common mind, the layperson, so to speak, who have no knowledge of the yogic tradition, who are not on the spiritual path, generally speaking, I would say, and it's no one's fault, it's just how the word Tantra became to be known here in the Western Hemisphere. It became badly associated with aerobatic sexual endeavor. And when people hear here in the West the word Tantra, they assume consciously or unconsciously right away it's associated with sex. It cannot be further from the truth. So it's important to demystify Tantra because in my experience as a Tantrika, and it's the most fascinating yogic path, yogic branch, and the most misunderstood one, completely misunderstood in the West. Tantra is a technology. It's like a technique. In my experience, it's using the body temple in such a way, using the mind in such a way, and using life force energy in such a way, in a state of vairagya, from a person to a presence, where you remain empty, open, receptive, and especially humble. And you have broken many, many boundaries because Tantra is really going beyond all the accumulation, the body and the mind. So there's a sense of life within, because the presence is very much alive but is boundless. So this is the secret as a yogini, what I discover on my path, what I realize on the path, to experience the mysticism of the yogic tradition, to experience the paranormal, and we will discuss briefly about siddhi, spiritual power as well, and which are completely insignificant when you are on the spiritual path. What's important to remember and to realize is, and this is the secret, to remain humble, remain open as the blue sky, open, receptive, vulnerable. That's why the power of vulnerability and sensitivity that we discussed in previous voyage is so important when you want to experience other dimension of reality beyond the physical. So in Tantra, you use your mind in such a way, you use the life force energy, you use your body temple, all of this to create an intelligent energy that is beyond you. I want to read a few quotes from this great scholar, international scholar and researcher on the yoga tradition. He used to have an institute here in, actually in California. I don't think it exists anymore. Georg Feinstein. And I have great reverence for this being. Not only he was a phenomenal researcher and a scholar on yoga, but he was also a yogi, and he transitioned, I believe it's like 4 or 5 years ago, and he has written many books, fascinating book, really with substance and credential. I've read many for, because since I write for Yoga Magazine, and to bring the logical aspect to what a researcher like him have come to notice. So I'm going to read one in particular. It's a brief quote. Maybe some of you know of him, and I quote him in my book as well, in Becoming the Light. And he wrote this fascinating book. It's called Tantra. Tantra, the path of ecstasy. So he wrote about demystifying Tantra, like I have shared with you, that, like I said, that most have reduced and degraded Tantra as an aerobatic sexual endeavor. So this is what Georg Feinstein, I hope I'm pronouncing his name properly, says in Tantra, the path of ecstasy, quote, "The papacy of research and publication on the tantric heritage of Hinduism has in recent years made room for a whole crop of ill-informed popular books on what I call neo-tantricism. Their reductionism is so extreme that a true initiate would barely recognize the tantric heritage." In this writing, the most common distortion is to present Tantra Yoga as a near discipline of ritualized or sacred sex. In the popular mind, Tantra has become, that's actually a great word, in the popular mind, Tantra has become equivalent to sex. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I so concord with them, so agree completely. As a tantrika myself for over a decade, I would say I don't see the element of sex, but it's been said in certain school, there's an element where the energy is being used, but it is beyond. What a phenomenal yogic tradition is my favorite. Also because in Tantra, you find a very strong element of bhakti, of loving devotion. Remember, anyone from any religious background, um, eco, socioeconomic background, ethnic background, um, color, doesn't matter, sex, gender, I meant like, or even sex orientation, doesn't matter. Anyone can practice on this path. And often it's an element also in Raj Yoga. And Raj Yoga, as you remember from previous voyage, is a concoction of different aspect of the yoga. So the Maharishi, over the thousands of years, developed this technology for us to use to awaken completely to our self-realization or God realization. One very important aspect of the yogic tradition in Tantra is where we find the mysticism, because as we said, is we create an energy that is more intelligent. So the deities that are being created in the tantric path for thousands of years, some of you might be familiar with this when we refer to God and goddesses, deity. There are many. There have been thousands of them over the ages, and they're just an intelligent energy, a subtle, intelligent energy that it cannot be comprehended, is beyond the mind, beyond the logic. And I have experienced that in many ways with Shiva, and going into Bhava Samadhi. Bhava means devotional samadhi, where the deity comes and you feel, and then you feel like possessed in a way, but possessed by the spirit of the divine. It's the same also in Christianity when you see someone speaking in tongue. I have experienced that many times over the decade. So those deity are many. I mean, I can go on giving a list of them. I mean, many of them. Like if you look at the goddesses of the divine feminine energy are probably most popular. And I'll go a little further into this in a moment. First, I want to read another quote that Georg Feinstein talk about this in his book on the path of ecstasy, because that's what I love about Tantra. It brings you in such a state of ecstasy, experiencing you divine presence, your Satchit Ananda, truly experiencing the universal consciousness of God, of what we call by so many names. So I'll read this quote briefly because it really supports what I'm saying here, with the credential that he looked at it, and himself, I believe, his path was in Tantra, Buddhism, in the Mahayana, and like the path, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I mean, I think Tara is one, Avakalishvara is another deity who is also known as Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin, for many lifetimes, has been very much part of my energy, and I know I have been on this path. I have reincarnated many times also in India. So Kuan Yin, some other part of the world, they call it Kuan Yin, and Kuan Yin takes a form as a deity, as a feminine. In Mahayana, Kuan Yin becomes Avakalishvara, another deity, but in the form of the masculine. So here is what Oche said on this, and I found it very fascinating because it's so true. As a yogini and a mystic, I can tell you this has been my experience, and it's so true. So this is what happened when people live in ignorance and keep their mind in a little box. It's easy to come to conclusion and put judgment without knowing, because the yogic tradition, especially Tantra in particular, was kept secret for thousands and thousands of years. It was a very esoteric tradition, like Sufism, for instance. It's only probably in the last several decades, I would not say exactly when, but as the planet shrank and the world becomes smaller and smaller because of the new era with all the social media, the internet, everything has been spreading more, and because we're in such a dear need of expansion of consciousness on our planet. As a matter of fact, the most important thing today, it's not only awakening for everyone to awaken, but is to bring back Mother Earth in balance. What I mean by that, for thousands and thousands of years, hundreds of years if you look back, Mother Earth was governed, was dominated and conquered in many tribes by patriarchal society, very infused with a strong masculine mindset, masculine energy. It's not right, it's not wrong. Don't get me wrong. And what I mean by that is that that kind of energy had the quality of conquering, possessing, destroying. It's part of the universal consciousness. It's the balance of both are necessary. What happened over the hundreds of years is Mother Earth and its inhabitant, the earthling, have been out of balance, dominated their energy by that masculine energy. And so what we have experienced on our planet, you see so much destruction, so much conquering and possessing of other territory, land, people, killing, violence. It's an energy, it's necessary, but again, if it's out of balance, it's not healthy. And this is what we have seen, patriarchal society thriving for too long. Look at the during the Middle Ages. There were some phenomenal yogini and mystic feminine and tantrika who had developed siddhis. Siddhis are spiritual power, paranormal power, ability, like Jesus Christ in his own time. When Jesus Christ materialized water into wine, remember that scene, or made appear a ton of fish and all walk on water, or he had the power to do all those miracles to heal people, and we all have it within. This is our true divine presence. So those miracles, I'm just giving you an example. Jesus Christ was one among thousands and thousands, because many great master, ascended master, came over throughout the ages, and they all had what we call, they had the power to create miracle. But it really comes down that they were mystic in many ways. They were yogi. They were able to tap into the Vijnana Maya kosha. And they were so empty within themselves, devoid of complete personality and limitation. They were boundless. and they were experiencing their Sat Ananda, their divine presence. So it was not them, it was the merging of as one with the divine allowed them to create all this bounty around them, to heal the blind, and so on and so forth. I was going to elaborate more on CD, and I decided not, because I want to, this is a warning for all of you. In my experience, from the very beginning, I came on the spiritual path. When I was much younger, I remember a little girl, I was fascinated by paranormal and the au-delà, what we call au-delà, meaning beyond the blue sky, beyond the physical realm. I was very fascinated, but even though I always felt it was normal, because I had many experiences as I grew up that you would consider in the so-called paranormal, but the mind was never there. I never tried to understand. Remember what I shared with you in the previous voyage, when I used to see this kind of light, and it would come. I was a little girl, and it would come, and I would get really fixated in a state of no mind, no thoughts, and it would come, and it would form like an eye, and I call it the eye of a tiger. And it would come, and it would just enter me, and it would explode, and I would go into a state of samyama, a complete state of samadhi samyama. That is, you could say it's in the realm of paranormal in some ways, but the reality is our true state. So what I want to share with you, all of you, don't ever forget, and which I will talk in the previous voyage, wanting and craving for CD, for spiritual power, is probably the most or the biggest obstacle on the spiritual path. Because if you start fascinating, your imagination will go crazy. If you start thinking about it, and wanting and craving and seeking to experience them, it will become an obstacle for you. It's not worth it. And that's why I decided not to discuss the different CD, because there are so many. Many you probably would have never imagined. And so it's best to leave alone where it's not in your experience. And for my being, I never craved for them. I never wanted them. I'm very well aware of the danger of having them, because one who started becoming and developing spiritual power, and if you're not really grounded and boundless on the spiritual path, and you're not have realized your being, yourself, it become a real danger of regression. And because what's most important on the spiritual path is mukti, what we call mukti, nirvana, or other spiritual tradition would call it other thing. In some religion they call it heaven. Whatever the word is to be liberated from returning into the physical realm, where experiencing suffering, experiencing pain, and it's a state of complete equanimity of samadhi. So just stay humble, stay open like the blue sky, become in a state of vairagya. As you do more sadhana, you meditate more, and you start doing more advanced yogic practices. With time, things will unfold naturally at your own rhythm, everything in divine timing. And what is so incredible about this, my dear, is, and this is what happened in my experience, is You forget about it like it does not exist. And you don't crave about them, you don't want them, it's not even there. And you just go on joyfully on the spiritual path and just grow, blossom your gardener, and use you one as the divine alchemist. Remember all the tools and the techniques we have talked so far. And eventually, it's when you don't crave for them, you don't even think about it, mysticism start happening. Experiences start happening. Some spiritual city might start developing over the decades. That has been my experience. So remember, this is very, very important. So I will read this quote. This is what Jorge said. And I have great admiration for him. And he's very, very well known. I don't know how many books he has out there, probably hundreds of books on yoga. And he has done intense research. And so here he says, terms like primitive polytheism that have been applied to Tantra and Hinduism in general are ready-made labels that fail to do justice to the actual situation. The masculine and the feminine deity worship in the tantric ritual are personification of specific intelligent energy presence in the subtle dimension, exactly as I have said to you. Then he goes on, beyond this, the tantric practitioner also understand that the gods and the goddesses are cipher, symbol that points beyond their immediate form of manifestation of the absolute Godhead, the singular being, what he means by the ultimate reality, God, so many names. So the ultimate truth, the supreme intelligence. Then he goes on, the tantrikas are well aware that a deity is a limited being, not the ultimate reality itself. God and goddesses can, however, become portals to that reality. Such personification of the divine are in service of devotion, bhakti yoga, which tantric practitioner cultivate to varying degree. So I'll repeat the last phrase. He says very clearly that beyond this, the tantric practitioner also understand that the god and the goddesses are cipher, symbol that point beyond their immediate form of manifestation of the absolute Godhead, the singular being. The tantrika are well aware that a deity is limited, is a limited being, is a limited entity, and not the ultimate reality itself. God and goddesses can, however, become portals of that reality. Such personification of the divine are in service of devotion, which tantric practitioner cultivate at various degrees. So, and that has been my experience. And again, remember, Shakti is primordial energy. It is the manifested energy that comes animate. And that feminine energy has all those qualities of creativity, nurturing, compassion, caring, and nourishing. And you see that women in particular, and that's the point I want to make that is very important, because most people think feminine energy comes from the gender being a female. No. It's the misconception, and that is misunderstood also. Everyone, regardless of your sex, gender, either male or female, we all have divine feminine energy within our being. The same, we all have divine masculine energy within ourselves. So far, you follow what I'm saying? So either you're a male or a female, we have both within ourselves. We reflect the macroscopic, what's happening in the whole cosmos, the whole universe. We experience the same on a macroscopic within our being. And so you will see some male who their energy is more prominent, feminine energy. I don't mean in terms of if they are homosexual. This has nothing, I'm not referring to any of sexual orientation right now. Vice versa, if a female who might be a lesbian, she could still have a lot of feminine energy in her. It depends what is most awakened within yourself. So ultimately, the spiritual path is to attain is not even the word, is to realize this harmonic marriage of Shiva Shakti. Shiva in the yogic tradition is just a concept for better understanding, to be able to communicate better. So Shiva, if you translate, means that which that is not, meaning universal consciousness that is still, that permeates all over the cosmos. Shakti, feminine energy, is primordial energy, which come to manifestation into the physical realm. Everything is Shakti, Kundalini, in the flower, into the tree, into the wind, into the animal. So we all have it. We all have both within. And so the spiritual journey, as we spoke in the previous voyage, is from the Muladhara, the foundation of the main chakra, piercing through this primordial energy to come to open up all those main 7 chakra, to come to full opening, the unique harmonic union of Shiva Shakti. And this is where you're completely in a state of Satchitananda, when you have completely probably attained, we could say in a way, where Shiva Shakti is in complete union, in that beautiful marriage, in complete realization, in complete balance of the feminine and the masculine. And it's very beautiful, and that is, most people in the popular mind and in the lay people don't know that. And you could live a life absolutely perfect. And even as we said, even if only 21 chakra has been spinning, but when all of them are awakening, when there's that unique harmony within Shiva Shakti, this is the full marriage, and this is the true supreme lover. I have experienced, and I know it's the true beauty, and you feel it, the vibration into your own being. By the way, when I talk about Bhakti Yoga and love devotion in the previous voyage, when I say you don't care about anything, I didn't mean literally you don't care about anything. Is that when you're in a state of divine love, you're not affected by things the same way. That's what I mean. And so please don't get me wrong, not that you become passive, that you don't do anything. When you're in a state of divine love, you embrace everything as yourself, every being, and you do care, but things don't affect you the same way. So, and I also, in the yogic tradition in Tantra, not only you use your body, your life force energy and your mind to create an intelligent that is so intelligent, but also you use natural thing, and it goes into more into the art of consecration when we start talking about that. When you do a puja, for example, a ritual, when you offer back to the divine what is been given to you, like rice, fruits, flowers, camphor, kapur. When you do an arti with the fire, you offer the 5 elements, like ether, air, and water. All of this become tool in the art of consecration. And I would say Tantra is very much related with the art of consecration. And so the art of consecration is just basically another tool. It's a life process. It's an intelligent life process. Again, making an intelligent from mundane to sacred, to transform this energy into an intelligent energy that is beyond of this world. And that was an experience that I wanted to share with you. Another one I want to share with you, and that was before Sadhguru and all the other masters were with me. I don't think I was on the spiritual path yet. I can't remember. I talk about it in depth. The whole story is in Becoming the Light. And this was with Alaska Airline. And I was with my ex-husband at the time, and who we are very dear friend. And we used to go a lot to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. And he had booked the flight. And on the morning to come back home, he asked me if I wanted to stay longer to see the sunset. A couple of days before, no, it was not the same day. It was a few days before. He said, would you love, my love, to stay longer to see the sunset? And I said, intuitively something was telling to me, there was only 2 hours difference. Can you imagine? There was 2 flights that day from Alaska Airline that was flying back from Puerto Vallarta to San Francisco. And something inside of me, think of it, was only 2-3 hours difference. Who would change a flight just for a few hours? Actually, he didn't say the sunset, that was me. And I look at the time, and I was meditating, and I went back to him. I said, yeah, something was telling me, change the flight. He changed the flight. So when the day came and we drove to the airport, we were in the taxi. I felt this energy around my plexus solar. Something was happening. And I felt an energy that was unpleasant, like a danger. So we arrived at the airport. The previous flight we were booked on, I don't remember what was, I think it was flight 261. I don't remember exactly, but it's irrelevant. Had already taken off. And as we were going through the process of embarking, and we sat down on the plane, I became very still and very quiet. And I started praying and envisioning a blue light going over our plane, protecting. And I started chanting that mantra of Gorakshana mantra. And so I was calling for the mantra of protection and bringing the light, and very still, very quiet. And I share with my ex-husband, Nathaniel, what I was experiencing. And he was doing his thing, reading, and I went into a deep meditation. And for a moment I look outside and I look at the sun rise, and then we took off. And then I felt this energy, and I felt, as we were flying, I felt this energy. At that time, I could not explain what it was, but it was the soul, the spirit of those beings in this other flight who had left prior to us. I really believe it was a matter of a difference of 2 hours. And what happened is this flight, it's been known through the history of what is the word? In the air, IRO, that it was one of the rare planes that crashed, literally, because normally a plane, when they take off, this is where the danger is for them to crash, or when they land. But their flight, the flight we were supposed to be in, the one that was changed a day before, a day or two before, I think it was the day before, a difference of only a few hours, that plane literally fell off the sky and just dived and crashed into the Pacific Ocean, went deep. And it was a tragedy in the aviation. That was the word I was looking for. It was such a, I felt their soul, I felt their cry, I felt this energy. And when we arrived in San Francisco, our flight went over, circulating for 45 minutes, non-stop. And finally, when we landed, and I was feeling it all through the flight, I was in a deep silence and a deep meditation. And how can you describe experiencing the crossing over of hundreds of soul and spirit who went through torment into this tragedy? And I was in commune with their spirit and their soul. As I'm relating to you the story, I feel Shakti, I feel the whole energy coming through me. And it was very mystical experience. And what happened after, which I'm going to share with you, the impact that it had on my life. So when we landed in San Francisco, the pilot said to us with a somber voice in the microphone, he said, when you debark the plane, don't be surprised if journalists, when you pick up your flight, if journalists come to you, a lot of people, and you share with us that the flight just prior us, by an hour difference, actually literally was lost. I didn't understand what he meant when he said it was lost. That's the word he used. And everyone was quiet in the plane. And in my brain, I was still in a state of complete samadhi, of no mind, and experiencing that energy. And I did not understand what he meant, lost in the sky. So when and he warned us that if we did not want to go through the normal gateway, there was another doorway that we can go pick up our luggage, because there was a lot of journalists waiting outside. And so as we debarked the plane, I stopped and I put my hand on the shoulder of the captain, and I asked him, "What do you mean, Captain, the plane is lost?" And he looked at me and he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "The plane is lost." And he was in a state of shock. And I was in a state of shock, and I still could not comprehend what he said. So everything was quiet, and we were waiting for our luggage. And so out of a sudden, I hear this woman who was talking over the phone with her mother, and she started crying, and she turned and looked at me, and she said, the plane crashed right prior to us, and it went right straight into the Pacific Ocean. And so over hundreds, I don't know how many people, but it was over 100 people in that flight, and a good majority of them were all employee of Alaska Airline, and they were family member of Alaska Airline. They had all gone into vacation in Puerto Vallarta, and that's why it was also a tragedy also in Alaska Airline, because over 60% of the plane were people from Alaska Airline. And so Nathaniel, my ex-husband, asked me, are you okay, my love? He said, do you want to go from the back door? I said, no, I'm fine. So, but everything was very somber and very silent. And I was still in a shock because what I experienced throughout the whole flight. And so we came across, and as we come out, oh my God, I didn't expect that. I knew, he said there was going to be journalists, but there were 30 journalists, TV, all the major media were there. And we were the first people to walk out, and they all came and gravitated to me. And out of a sudden, all I know, there was a swirl of, of dozens of microphones asking, how does it feel to be alive? Do you realize that the plane before you, and asking all kind of questions. And I was in such a state of shock, I couldn't even talk. And I had tears in my eyes, and all I said, I feel so blessed. And I could not even say what I experienced there on that plane, and my experience. So that was so mystical. And what was mystical is what I felt deeply through going and crashing and experiencing that the passing of those beings. And when I came back home, for months and months, I was in such a deep state of feeling so blessed, and in a deep state of gratitude. And I was so overwhelmed by this mystical experience. I did this beautiful painting for Alaska Airline, and I wrote a poem and I sent it to them. And I heard from the CEO at the time, and they put the photo and my letter and the poem in their newspaper in Alaska Airline. But what is relevant to the story was how it deeply affected my spiritual awakening. And I mourn and grieve for months and months after from this experience. And to experience that mystical experience was so profound and so beautiful, and no words can describe the state of samadhi that it brought me in. So mysticism is not just in the yogic tradition, and I don't remember the year then, but I don't think I was on the spiritual path then. So the art of consecration now, we started talking a little bit about it. And as I said, it's a life, intelligent, transforming process. It's turning something mundane into something sacred, a rock into a deity, to infuse it with a new life force energy that is intelligent, through the science of prana prashista, of the art of consecration. And this is a vast subject, is beyond the scope of this this program, and it's something very ancient, very secret, and very sacred as well. So consecration, one can consecrate his body temple to serve everyone on our planet. See, modern science said very clearly that energy is ever expanding. They look at it in quantum physics. They look at the smallest particle, how energy is behaving, how it keeps expanding, and it is all the same, and yet it behaves in different way. So that's the beauty of the tantric path. And then the art of consecration is that there are many tools, there are many methods, and there are many processes. And it's all natural. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. And if you have any questions, write them down. There are many paths, and just trust that you've been guided within yourself, and you will see with time, you will experience more and more your divine presence. Keep practicing, keep bringing back your breath to the present moment. My home is now. As you breathe, just relax all your body temple, every muscle. That is the most important practice to do. And keep practicing deity meditation, emerald green, blossom meditation, and write down your question. And I believe those were the different things I wanted to share with you. Remember, we all have the masculine and the feminine energy, and the true marriage is that the supreme lover is within ourselves. On the art of consecration and on the path of self-realization, there is a very profound experience I would love to share with you, which I found the most mystical. And remember, everything I share with you, let it come here, let it go out, and no attachment, no craving, no desire. And when you let all of that go is when things start happening for you. So this one is about the blue pearl. And I'm going to quote Muktananada. And this is coming from, you know, Muktananada. He was a great Siddha master. I have quoted him before. And I want to quote this because I love his little book. And I was not aware about this at the time that I had the experience. And I'll share you my story after. But let me read the quote first. So the blue pearl from Swami Muktananada, and it's very significant. And so this is from his book that is called, I believe, The Secret of Life. I think that was the title. So he says, in the center of that effulgent lays a teeny and fascinating blue light, the blue pearl. And when your meditation deepens, you begin to see it sparkling and scintillating. Sometimes it comes out of the eye and stands in front of you. It moves with the speed of the eye and stands in front of you. I'm sorry. Sometimes it comes out of the eye and stands in front of you. It moves with the speed of lightning, and it is so subtle that when it passes through the eye does not feel its movement. The vision of the blue pearl is the most significant of all the experiences I have described. Everyone should see the blue pearl at least once. The scripture described this blue pearl as the divine light of consciousness which dwells within everyone. It is the actual form of the self, our innermost reality, the form of God which lives within us. Within the blue pearl, there are millions of universes. But your meditation, the blue pearl contains the entire cosmos. But your meditation is not completed just by seeing the blue pearl. It has to become steady. If you have intense longing for God, deep love for your Guru, deep faith in Kundalini, there will be a time when you will be able to make that blue pearl stand in front of you. Within, you will see the deity you love. So what's so important about this is, and this is brought back, this is not Muktananada making this up. This comes from thousands and thousands of years through the ages, from the Saptarishi to the Maharishi. What's significant here, he says very clearly that within the scripture and oral tradition, that everyone should see the blue pearl, but the scripture described the blue pearl as the divine light of consciousness which dwells within everyone. It is the actual form of the self, our innermost reality, the form of God which lives within us. Within the blue pearl are millions of universes. The blue pearl contains the entire cosmos. So it's the form of God within us. That's so powerful and so significant, because this is why I'm going to share the story, because it's true. I have experienced that. And that is to say that God, this is the confirmation, that's the validation that God lay within us, all of us. The divine, seek in, don't seek out, is within us, right here in this moment. And when you start realizing that, the blue pearl will manifest. Here I was sitting, and Sadhguru was sitting, and he was just talking. He was not even doing a process. And I went into a complete state of no mind, and a complete state of samadhi. Very still, very equanimous, boundless. And out of a sudden, this most beautiful, ethereal, effulgent, turquoise blue light, I did not know it was the blue pearl, was standing above Sadhguru's head, probably by 1 feet, something like that. It was scintillating. I had never seen such divine, ethereal beauty. It was beyond of this world. And it was sparkling, scintillating. And I was not craving. I was not excited. I was in such a state of equanimity, and I was in a state of samadhi, and I was just fixated by it. And and I became one with it. And my eyes was open, and it was just standing still. What was significant also, it was just above Sadhguru's head. And I had never experienced something like that. I knew it was otherworldly. because I had never seen something like that. And my mind was not going, oh my God, I'm having an experience, or eventually when I came out of it, I wanted more. It was, I was just experiencing it. And I stay focused on it, and still, and a sense of boundlessness just overcame me, and I felt I was everywhere, experienced the whole universe. I was in the tree, I was in the bird, I was in the breeze, and I didn't feel a body anymore. I was everywhere in a complete state of, maybe it was Nirvakalpa Samadhi, probably not, because Nirvakalpa Samadhi is in a state where your eyes are closed. It doesn't matter. What it matters is it does exist and is true. And what I experienced was very mystical, and yet it is our normal state when we are fully awakened. So this is the blue pearl. So what is to take from this is the blue pearl, is the life, is the form of God, of the divine that is within us. So treat your body temple, your body as a temple. Treat your heart, your spirit as a shrine, because the divine is right there. And it is our blessing and our wish for you to experience that. So I didn't even know at the time until later that I had heard of it after that, because it came to my attention, but I had no idea the blue pearl can be seen with wide open eyes. And so just know that the divine is right here behind, not behind, within your being, and that is to take with you, to remember that is within you, that blue pearl is within you, is the form of God within. And that when you know that and you realize that, that is the most beautiful gift, because it's who you are. So keep practicing. Come back to your breath all the time. That is actually the most powerful of all tools that can be imparted to you. The mindful breath, the conscious breath of breathing God, breathing the divine, and releasing all the tension and becoming aware of what's happening within your body temple.